Welcome to the Real Freedom Podcast, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. All right, welcome everybody to this episode of the Real Freedom Podcast. I'm excited to talk about phone sales secrets, best tips for being on the phone. And today we've got an expert for you. So today we've got Wally Bressler, and Wally has phonesalessecrets.com. You've done over 25,000 one-on-one coaching calls, training sessions with people inside of real estate and in general. So obviously you're a master when it comes to phone sales, the mindset around phone sales, right? It's not just about the skills, but it's the mindset around it. So just a wealth of information. So, whatever you're pursuing in real estate to help you build wealth, to help you gain financial and time freedom, there's going to be some aspect of being on the phone. And so really want to just help people with that skill set and that mindset to be successful. So welcome, Wally. If you want to just share a little bit more about your background, we'd love to hear.
Sure. Yeah. I graduated from college in 1990. And, at the time it was I think they said it was the second worst year since World War II to get a job. So, I taught high school English for a while, and then I got a job in the mutual fund industry. I worked there for about 10 years, 10 years. Mm-hmm. And in 1998, I decided to get my real estate license. And so, I had been avoiding getting into sales for a long time because I had actually suffered from call reluctance at the time. And so I got my license, and then in the next 14 months, I sold 72 houses, and I was hooked. And so I was fortunate to get connected with the right guy in the right system. And I was part of, the team that helped grow it to a little over 400 transactions a year. And so in 2001, I started doing some training and some coaching. And so, I've been doing it, since 2001. I've been coaching agents, working with them, helping them with all aspects of their business. And, I've been coaching full time since probably 2006. So been very fortunate to work with some of the best agents, in the United States and Canada. And a lot, even though I can help people with all aspects of their business, I do enjoy helping people with the prospecting side of things, because really that's where, it all starts, I'm saying, for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It really starts with getting on the phone, making phone calls. And even if you have a great sphere, even if you have, really strong social media presence or other systems that generate leads for you, you still have to pick the phone up and call people, right? Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, it all comes down to a phone call. And so that's, from that standpoint, I think that's part of why I like it so much. And, I gravitated towards building phone sales secrets specifically because of, the challenges I had in overcoming sales call reluctance. So that's kind of where we are now. And so, I do coach real estate agents now. And I work with a variety of other people in helping them hire and train inside salespeople, helping them hire and train their agents, helping them with their own phone sales skills, helping people overcome sales call reluctance. So a lot of what I do every day is really built around helping people become lights out good on the phone.
And one of the things that's interesting, so there's really two types of people in this world: those people that you already know and those people that you don't know. And so, it's with the people that it's building that relationship, right? So that they know, like, and trust you and, want to work with you. And then you've got the people that you don't know. And the goal is to be able to turn those people into people that know, like, and trust you down the road. And right. You've mentioned a couple times now already, sales call reluctance. And so why don't you just start talking about that a little bit and just that mindset thing? Because, as the further and further that I get into real estate, I realize more and more mindset is the key factor that motivates everything, right? Because you could be the best person in the world at making phone sales or being on the phone. And yet, if you've got that reluctance, if you're not able to pick up the phone, or if you just have a hard time getting started, and maybe you've got some mindset stuff in your head to get started, that can hurt you. So part of the battle is just getting going. So talk about that reluctance and talk about that mindset.
Sure. Thanks. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that. So, there's two types of call reluctance. There's the folks that, they don't know what they're supposed to say, how they're supposed to say it, when they're supposed to say it, mm-hmm. So they're uncomfortable with the process, but they're willing to jump in, roll their sleeves up and really get started making phone calls. And they're willing to work through the discomfort to get to the point where they're okay with making phone calls. So there's a percentage of people who have call reluctance, but it's more a function of ignorance and, ignorance from the true standpoint of not knowing, not being ignorant, but really ignorance from not knowing what they're supposed to do and whatnot. So they face a little bit of trepidation due to the lack of clarity and the lack of comfort with what they're supposed to say. Okay. And so with those folks, eventually, if they work hard enough at it, making a phone calls, do some of the coaching programs that are out there where you get on the phone and you learn how to be a prospecting genius at some point, they'll be fine. The majority of people who suffer from sales call reluctance suffer from something that's much deeper. It's much more of an emotional issue for them. Okay. And so, and usually, let me start this. Call reluctance basically is the either the unwillingness or the lack of desire or the inability to get on the phone to make phone calls due to fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment. Okay. Fear of getting their feelings hurt, fear of hurting other people's feelings. Sometimes it's literally just complete like blank. They don't have any feelings towards it at all. Sometimes, people get sweaty pits and sweaty hands and dry mouth and beating heart, upset stomach, sweating head. But really it comes down to either an unwillingness or an inability to pick up the phone and call people, to discuss it. It's some sort of part of the sales process with them. To your point earlier, people we know, people we don't know, there's just as many people out there who fear calling the people they know as they do the people they don't know, right? And so for you EXPers out there, I'm saying, obviously you're looking to build a great, rev share downline, and it's going to start with calling real estate agents that in most cases, because those are the easiest conversations to have. So the call reluctance, Mike, isn't just, relegated to making sales calls. It's also, calling to recruit for your downline, calling to get referrals for your business. Some people have the same issues with making videos, so they have that same reluctance, and really it just has to do with, their self-image, their self-worth, and what they feel people are going to think about them. Okay. And like most of the junk that happens in our head, it started when we were a lot younger. Okay. At some point in our childhood, something happened. There was some sort of a trauma. We were physically, emotionally, or sexually abused. We saw something horrible happen, like a parent or a relative die in front of us. We could have been bullied mercilessly. We could have been made fun of for something that we were wearing. Sometimes we make an observation about something and then we believe that certain thing about ourselves. I thought forever that I was poor, right? Because my parents, my mom was a teacher, my dad was, doing odd jobs and everything, and so I wore Sears and Roebuck's clothes and whatever my dad handed down to me as I got older, and so I'd go to school, kids would have Levi's, Timberland boots, nice puffy ski jackets. I mean, even had lunch envy. I mean, kids had nicer lunches than I had. I still remember. I'm 53, and I still remember the Cowtails candy that came in like a long wrapper. It was like kids had those all day long. I never had a Cowtail, and so anyway, so I convinced myself that I was poor, and I created like this real block in my head about what I was worthy of and what I deserved. I mean, at some points, Mike, I would actually get physically ill about not having money when I was around people that had money. So that was just part of my call reluctance. But the point is something happens, and we have a sympathetic nervous system, right? It's our fight or flight,
right?
It's a component of our nervous system, and so if you're a fighter, like you take a guy like Frank Shamrock, who went into the USC and beat the snot out of people for a living, right? He was a fighter, right? He got beat and emotionally and physically abused as a child, but he said, hey, you know what? You're never going to do that to me again. And he's going to fight my butt off. You know what I'm saying? And even Lewis House talks about it too, and being successful. He was a fighter too. But the people that suffer from call reluctance are flighters, right? We turn into a puddle. I include myself in that. We turn into a puddle. We don't want to put ourselves in a situation where we're going to get hurt, where we're going to get embarrassed, where we're going to get our feelings hurt. And so what happens is we grow these belief systems about ourselves in our head. And then as we get older and older and older, and reinforce it by thinking about it in the back of our mind, by not putting ourselves in position or situations where that can happen. And so by the time I'm a real estate agent, I'm 25, 30, 35 years old. Hey, it's time to pick up the phone and call people you don't know, you know what I'm saying? So, 80% of new salespeople suffer from that. And about 40% of seasoned salespeople suffer from that. Okay. Great guy in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Jim McLean, 7 years old, was one of the top real estate agents in his market for years, sold like over 300 homes a year. He reached out to me early this year. He says, man, I'm stuck. Says, I don't want to pick up the phone. I can't pick up the phone. And he was selling 40, 45 homes a year just for people he knew, but he was, having a tough time. And so he went through my course. We identified where the blockage was, and he worked through it. And then, next thing you know, he's back on the phone, making phone calls, feeling better than ever. And so it doesn't matter how old you are, what you went through, even if you have sales call reluctance, it's not something that you're stuck with. And can I just add one more thing? It's not our fault. Like, sales call reluctance is not somebody's fault. Okay. There's a great video by Will Smith called Fault versus Responsibility. If you had a chance, it's literally Fault versus Responsibility by Will Smith. It's probably a 4-minute video, but what he says is, hey, listen, you know what? It may not be your fault where you are right now, but it is your responsibility to resolve whatever the problem is. Okay. And so if you do suffer from sales call reluctance, show yourself some kindness, show yourself some compassion. Don't beat yourself up. Okay. Just understand that something happened that created that, but you're not stuck with it. But now that you know that there's an issue, it's your responsibility to take care of that. And I'm telling you, when people take care of it, it changes their lives. Not just their business lives, but their personal lives too. Being able to pick the phone up and call anybody about anything, right? I'm sure, we joke around, like Mike Reese, he used to say, look, you know what? He says, if you pick me up and you drop me in the middle of a city and I knew nothing, he said, the first thing I do, pick up the phone and start calling expireds, FSBOs, canceled, you know what I'm saying? Just, and that's really, for a lot of people, that's how it starts, It makes
sense. And I love you going back to trauma, and going back deeper than just, hey, I'm nervous about picking up the phone. My wife's a therapist. And she works with, she specializes in working with kids who have experienced trauma. And, one of the things that I've learned from her is how much those things spell out, just play out in the future in various ways that you either you're conscious of or just completely unconscious of. And, sometimes I kind of jokingly go back to her and say, like, everything later in life that happens kind of goes back to some sort of trauma when you were younger, and I think that's true. Like, when what you said about, it's not your fault. So put yourself as a new agent or a new person trying to make a dent here in your real estate business. Yeah, it's a lot deeper, and you don't have to feel bad about, why can't I just pick up the phone and call people? And like you said, even the example of the guy who's been in the business for a long time, this stuff happens. So I think normalizing it, and realizing that just because you're having reluctance about it now doesn't mean you won't in the future. And if you're doing fine right now, doesn't mean it can't pop up its ugly head in the future as well. And so just know that it's normal, it's okay. And we all go through it at different points in time.
Yeah. I mean, most of us, we spend, like, something like, for me, I experienced a lot of trauma as a child. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when I was 6 years old, 4, 5, 6 years old, one of the punishments for my father was to go to bed without dinner. At that age, I'm saying. And so I still remember first day of first grade, everybody else is eating snack, and I opened up my lunch, ate my snack, ate my entire lunch because I was afraid I wasn't going to eat. And then I suffered with a binge eating disorder for about 46 years. You know what I'm saying? But it just started as a little seed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I was sexually abused when I was 10. And then I started watching pornography consistently at 11. And by the time I was 12, I was having sex. And so none of those things should be happening to kids at that age. And then back then, nobody said, hey, my parents didn't say, hey, don't let anybody touch your body. You don't touch anybody else's body. If it happens, let me know. So, when you're left to your own devices, you start, and so that's whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be that bad. It could be, I've had clients who wore a pair of dress shoes or nice dressy shoes to gym class and got made fun of for it for a month. And now they're a huge perfectionist because they don't want to leave their house looking anything but perfect because they're afraid people are going to judge them. Right. So it doesn't have to be something tragic or horrible. It could be something that small. And it's like, it starts as a seed in many cases. And then we just water it every day with either what we're saying to ourselves, what we're saying out loud, what we're saying to other people about ourselves. We start labeling ourselves. I'm this, I'm that, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that. I can't do this, I can't do that. You see what I'm saying? And so, and every day, we water it, it grows, and then it's this gangly, nasty weed in our head. Then when it's time to actually pick the phone up and make phone calls, or, go and meet with people or get on video, stuff like that, that's when the reluctance comes up, And so, but, it could have been something your parents said to you, like, Imagine if your dad had said to you, hey, listen, you know what, Mike, I don't want you to go into business for yourself because nothing good happens to the Swensons, okay? Swensons have bad luck. Nothing good is ever going to happen to a Swenson. So the last thing you should do is go and stick your neck out and try and do something, And if that gets reinforced every day, by the time you're 21, nothing good happens for the Swensons. So I'm not even going to try. So it happens. And it's not like parents are I believe most parents try and do their best job. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's some nasty, horrible parents out there who are mean and nasty, but I think our parents did the best they could. But a lot of them still have the faculties to, take care of things. When I was 11, I think I saw my grandmother die on the kitchen floor, and my aunt was performing CPR on her and brought her back to life. But no one sat down with me and said, hey, this is what happened and grandma's okay. You know what I'm saying? So, and when that stuff is left unchecked, then we're left to our own selves to resolve it. And because of the fear and the trauma and everything else, our solution is to just avoid, right? Just to block it out. And then over time. And so, there's enough real estate business for everybody, right? There's 5.25, 5.7 million homes sold every year. Lots of houses out there, so, so you times two, because there's two sides to just about every transaction, right? So, when we're looking at almost 11 million homes, 11 million sides, what I'm saying? Everybody should be able to get 50 to 100 sides and be okay, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's a mindset thing. Like, just even that statement is really deep in it. And, that's a message that I tell to my agents on my team is, look, the analogy that we've used is, look, if you back up into the ocean with either like a teaspoon or a cup or a whole dump truck, the ocean doesn't care how much water got taken out of it because it's big enough. And I think for people to understand, especially a new person in the business, is, look, the number one agent in your area could still be number one unless your goal is to become number one. But, they could still be number one. Number two could still be number two. And you could still have a wildly successful real estate business and they could still stay one or two. You don't have to, their loss doesn't have to be your gain. There's enough to go around. And there's so many agents out there doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 transactions a year that those are probably the sides that you could pick up. And if they get out of the business, those people get out of the business, but there's so much business to go around. And I think that's a key thing as well, as realizing I don't have to feel like if somebody else is successful, then I can't be successful. They could be successful and I can be successful, and that's a key mindset, like a root foundational principle, I think, in real estate that really matters, is they can be successful and I can too. I don't have to cheer for them to be bad so that I could be good. We could all win.
Not just that, and excellent point. I mean, it really puts it in perspective, and whoever's watching this, I mean, that's really the mindset you have to have if you really want to be a successful real estate agent. And just to build on that, Mike, the number one agent in your marketplace is not even your competition in most cases. It's the agents who sell in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 homes.
Right.
It's, because when people become agents, the first 6 homes they get are usually from people that they know. You know what I'm saying? It's not usually from a source of leads that they purchased or prospected for. So, they're, your number 2, even like the number 20 agent in your marketplace probably isn't your competition. You know what I'm saying? And really your only competition is again with yourself. I want to bring another point, which I think ties in well with this. Is a woman, Dr. Kristen Neff. She's an expert on self-compassion. And if you watch on YouTube, there's a video called The 3 Elements of Self-Compassion. One of them is called Common Humanity. And basically what she says is because I think what a lot of real estate agents do is they isolate themselves when things aren't going well, when they're not getting the results they want, either from embarrassment or fear of judgment. They stop going to the office, they stop going to trainings, they stop going to meetings, they stop seeking out leadership and direction. And what happens is they start isolating themselves, and isolation is literally like the devil's playground. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, it's really a bad place, because then you're left to your own thoughts and your own devices, and those are usually not going to be very helpful. So she calls it common humanity, says it's good to go ahead and be around other people, other real estate agents, even those that might be doing better than you, because everybody in most cases still has the same challenges. You know what I'm saying? Every real estate agent needs leads. Every real estate agent hears the word no. Every real estate agent loses listings. Every real estate agent loses buyers, right? Every real estate agent has some sort of slump at some point in their career, right?
Yep.
Every real estate agent gets yelled at, loses money. I mean, it happens to everybody, you know what I'm saying? So she calls it common humanity, meaning when you can be around other people who have experienced what you've experienced, you don't feel the need to isolate, and you don't feel so badly about what's happening to you because you realize that other people are experiencing it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think it's, you know, and I suggest, you know, definitely watch the video from Will Smith, but also go watch the 3 Elements of Self-Compassion, because she gives you 3 strategies to not beat the crap out of yourself on a daily basis, because, you know, we don't need to be our own worst enemy. We got enough people out there that are wanting us not to succeed anyway. So,
well, and I think thinking about all the programming that you have, it can spiral downwards, but it also can spiral upwards, and that's where being around other people can really help your thoughts and your feelings and your actions really go in the positive direction. So if you're in a funk, that can help you get out of the funk. And I know for me, one of the things that's really helpful on our team, we talk about, you know, if you draw a line down a piece of paper both ways and you make 4 squares, you've got present and future, right? And then you've got positive and negative. And so we talk about that as the positive, the positive, negative, past or present, future quadrant. So, right now, maybe your present negative, you've got some bad feelings. If you think about positive future, what am I going to get out of making these calls? What's going to be the benefit for me, the benefit for my family, the benefit for my future life? That also helps to kind of give you some good programming, thinking about that positive future. And it's the same way when you're talking with a buyer or a seller is, your current home is not working for you. There's something that's wrong or something that's not a fit, whatever that reason is. And you've got positive future, which is, I'm closer to work. I'm closer to family. It's a better payment for me. It's a nicer school district. It's a more room in my home. So it's that positive future. And so going from kind of that negative present, wherever you're at, to what is my positive future has kind of helped me get out of some of those funks. And in coaching agents and talking about mindset, that's important.
Right. When you said something interesting, you said thoughts, feelings, actions. T. Harv Eker, who wrote The Millionaire Mindset, right? Millionaire Mindset. He talks about TFAR, thoughts, feelings, actions, and results, right? So your thoughts are going to create certain feelings, right? Certain feelings are going to then cause action, or in some cases inaction, which, by the way, is still an action, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get results, either, positive or negative results. So that's, it all starts with your thoughts. Can I layer something in what you just said? Would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, your point about thinking about the positive and what's possible and focusing on, what's good, absolutely very, very important part of the mindset process and getting results. I learned an interesting lesson from my own son, actually. So, when you grow up like I did with low self-esteem, low self-worth, you make a lot of bad choices because you're always looking to fill that void of not feeling loved, not feeling deserving, not feeling wanted. And, you'll do anything, even if it's stupid, to make it happen. And I ended up doing some real estate investing back in 2005 and 2006. And I ended up getting pleading guilty to one count of mail fraud. Not because I was trying to steal money, but the people that I was working with, were doing some things that were unsavory. And the fact of the matter was there were things that I saw that I ignored. There's things that I saw that I should have asked better questions about, and I didn't. So I have to accept responsibility for doing that. But what happened was, I have 4 kids, 3 girls and a boy, and or 3 daughters and a son. And, we had to tell our kids what was going on. So we told our kids that we were getting divorced and that I was going to prison on the same day. So you can imagine, this is back in 2013. So my kids were 13, 12, 9, and 7 at the time, and their mother had been home with them their entire life. And so life took a hard left at good for them. And so, as you can imagine, the impact on was pretty significant. In fact, I didn't see them for a year. And so, a lot of bad things happened to them too, lots of challenges, lots of issues. But I remember, I had my son doing some work with me, and I said, hey, let's set some goals, Al. Let's talk about, what you want to do. And I said, let's think of 10 things you want to do. And so we sat there for an hour, and he couldn't think of one thing that he wanted to do. And I was like, really? I'm like, you told me you wanted to try different states. You wanted to have a house up in New Hampshire, and so as I thought about it and started working with people, I saw that other people, because what I have people do is I'm like, let's think about everything you want to be, do, or have, so we can start thinking about the future, at some point. But I find that people aren't able to do that. And so what I learned, Mike, is that when we're in our head and we're thinking about all the stuff we're running from, and we're dealing with just trying to get through the pain or just trying to make it through the day and not feel the pain or the anxiety, the fear, or we're beating ourselves up, or if we're just focusing on what we're running from and we're looking back and trying, we can't look forward. It's hard to look, we can, but it's hard to look forward and think about what you're excited about when you're spending the majority of your time keeping feelings and pains and other things stuffed down. Right? Does that make sense? So once we can find out what that problem is and become aware of, the essence, or should I say the genesis of our call reluctance or our issues, once we become aware of that and kind of open things up and start letting that old programming seep out of our brain, we can start putting new things in it. And I've had there's one of my clients in Maryland, towards the end of the class was like, hey, he's like, he says, I'm starting to remember dreams I had 20 years ago of things I wanted to do, And so again, not your fault, but your responsibility. So it's yes, positive thinking, positive, not just positive thinking, but thinking about future positive, very important. But part of that is clearing out some of that old programming so you can make room for that good stuff, If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And here we are talking about, phone sales secrets. And so much of what we've talked about is programming and mindset and that sort of stuff, not necessarily as much the nuts and bolts of what you're saying.
That's the secret though. Is that
exactly.
The secret is that if you can get your head around what you need to do on the phone, everything else can come to you. Anybody can learn a script. I can teach you how to handle an objection in 5 different ways. And not only there's tons of people out there that could teach you how to handle objection. There's 10 different expired scripts, probably 100 of them. Calling FSBOs, calling expireds. I mean, that's all learned. You can learn that, right? Repetition is the mother of skill, right? If you say the same thing over and over again, eventually you're going to get it. And it's going to make sense. And then you'll finally get results. You know what I'm saying? Right? Yeah. And so any of those things can be learned. But if you're unable to get on the phone to then practice that craft, doesn't matter how good your scripts are, right? Doesn't matter how good your rebuttals are. You may have even seen these people on your team before. They're impeccably well dressed. They drive a nice car. They look like they have everything in order. Their desks are completely clean. They take notes. They read like crazy. They do all these things, but they're never ready to get on the phone.
Right.
They're getting ready to get ready, and that's where that call reluctance comes from. Is that they're unable to make that last, that they're on the 5-yard line. They're unable to get the ball the remaining 5 yards, which is the most important part. And that's sad because I think everybody who gets into real estate should be able to get to that first 6-figure goal that pretty much everybody has, right? When I get into real estate, I want to get to 6 figures.
Yep.
And then you realize it, that that 100 grand after you pay everything off is not fantastic. It's good, but then my whole point is I want everybody who becomes a real estate agent to at least get to the point where they can make 100 grand a year or more.
Yep.
Because I think it's available to everybody, and I think if you're willing to give up a job and give up that security and take on the challenges that come along with being a real estate agent, which are significant in some cases, then you deserve to be rewarded handsomely for that. Okay. But it's more than just, the who and the what, it's the how, you know what I'm saying? And and I hate saying this, and people are like, oh, I don't need to prospect. I have enough business. Well, eventually the number of people you're going to run out of people that where it's going to get smaller and smaller, right? And growing your business organically that way through social media referrals takes a much longer period of time, And so at some point you have to get on the phone. Yeah. And we're kind of going back to where we started, right? But my whole point is that if you do suffer from sales call reluctance, you're not stuck with it if you don't want to be stuck with it. You can do something about it and free yourself up from that and literally change the trajectory of your life and business forever. Yeah. Right? Because it's not that cold calling doesn't work, because it does. It's not that buying leads doesn't work, because it does, right? There's no such thing as a bad lead. If you've got a phone number and an email address, that's an amazing lead. If you have just an email address, that's a decent lead. If you got no phone number, no email address, that's okay. You can look them up on Ben Verified or something. Cliff Freeman, who's I think he's number 4 with EXP. He sold a house to Mickey Mouse one year. Not Mickey Mouse, but it is Mickey Mouse. I think it was Mickey Mouse. So sold the house, got a house. So, right. So my point is that it's not there's no saying really is bad lead. It's just bad timing. Right. It's just not the right time. Don't have enough money. Don't have good enough credit. Not ready to sell their home yet. Right. So, and the people who say the leads are bad, it's because they don't either have the skill set to convert those leads, or they don't have the mindset to get on the phone to learn the skill set to convert those leads, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, and the reality is they're not ready till they're ready. And you just need to make sure that when they are ready, you're the person that's built that relationship, or at least had, as much contact in front of them as possible, to be able to get that call, because things can change really quickly. I gave my team the example of, I wasn't planning to move for 5 or 6 years. All of a sudden my wife sends me a house and says, "Hey, this one looks really interesting." Well, that day I talked to my lender, we got pre-approved, and it was either the next day or the following day we wrote up an offer, and a month later we were in a new house. So, if I give that as an example of if an agent had been calling me consistently, I'm not ready, 5 years, 5 years, 5 years. And then they could have waited 3 months and called me back, "Hey, I'm a month into my new house." Well, what changed? It changes that quickly. So you just have to be ready and be that face or that phone number or that person that they think of when they are ready. And that's really important to build that relationship, like you said.
Yeah. And to your point, two things here. One of the things I learned early on is that people underestimate how much money they need in order to make a transaction happen. They overestimate how long it's going to take. So that's the first thing. Second thing is statistically speaking, 3 to 5% of the business is now business. About 20 to 30% of the business is going to happen between 90 days and 6 months. And 60+% of the business is at least like 6 months to a year away or more. Yeah. So, and that's the thing. So now it's not just, can you make the initial call, but can you, how can I explain this? Can you do what they call progressive profiling and continually build a relationship with somebody and stay in touch with them so that when it comes time to buy or sell, they'll choose you. Now, will everybody do it? No. But you have a much better chance of getting somebody to do business with you if you're the only person that's been staying in touch with them for 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And that requires that you get on the phone and stay on the phone.
There's so much more that we could cover, and we could do another session in the future on this. But so for folks, Wally, that want to learn more about you and learn more about what you're doing, how can they find out more?
Yes, I would go to phonesalessecrets.com and sign up for my Facebook page. I put a lot of my content, my podcasts, and other things that I'm doing there. Also, I've created a free course. It's a five-step mini course where people can go through the steps of overcoming sales call reluctance and kind of get familiar with what it takes. And you're welcome to go ahead and grab that. I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for inviting me to be on here, Mike. It's been amazing. And I know you're like in the 60s or 70s. I saw for your podcast, right?
Yeah, we just crossed episode 50, so I don't remember which one. We're in the low 50s, so it's been a year.
Yeah, awesome. Congratulations. So I saw that. So good for you, man. It's nice to have that kind of staying power, and I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate it. And reach out to Wally and learn so much more than just the nuts and bolts about what to say. It's so much deeper than that, and I appreciate you sharing. So thank you so much.
Thanks. Take care. Bye, everybody. Right.